What's going on, BHDL fans? My name is Scorpion of the BHDL crew, and today we are bringing you the official Battle Hub Draft League Season 2 Power Rankings. We are here, and I say we, because joining me today is two very special guests, veterans from Season 1. On the one hand, we have emeraldminer, the finalist of Season 1 and coach of the Demewlition Force. Want to say hello, friend?
What's poppin', people? emeraldminer here, very hyped, and I'm excited.
And on the other hand, we have my fellow semi-finalist from the first season of BHDL. We have Capt B-Nard. Say hello to the people.
Hey everybody, Capt B-Nard here. Glad to be here. Glad to do these rankings. So yeah, I'm ready to go.
All right, thank you guys so much for joining me. Let's get right into it. Like I said in the proposal, we're going to be doing this a little bit in the draft order, but also not completely. We're going to go in the draft order. We're going to go through coach number 1, then 16, then 2, then 15, and work our way through the middle. So the first coach we have on our hands here is the notorious HYM, coach of the Brooklyn Crabrawlers. Guys, what do you think of this team?
I love it. You got the Dragapult, you got the Lycanroc, you got the Alolan Muck. This is basically the Demewlition Force Season 1 version 2. What do you guys think?
It definitely is, yeah. I mean, the Dragapult's there. Obviously, that gives it that amazing speed tier. It's got quite a lot of type diversity as well. And I think the Terra Captains, Maushold and Gyarados especially, I think is a very big threat. It's a well-balanced team. There's like a good mixture of offense and defense. And the speed tiers are really good. Like, this guy's got 5 Mons with the speed tier above 100. That's scary.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. I gotta say, I'm really impressed with this team. I like it a lot. I like how in the first 3 picks he grabbed a really strong Dragon Fairy Steel Core.
Yep.
And as you mentioned, the Terra Captains, I think Gyarados and Maushold are pretty much the best that he could have chosen to be his Terra Captains, so I am a huge fan of this team. The only real criticism I have of the team as of now is that I've noticed that he's got a lot of ground weaknesses on the team that he doesn't exactly have compensated for, but other than that, I think it's a really strong, well put together team. Definitely one of the top ones this season.
Yeah, I agree. I think the Dragapult is an amazing weapon. Obviously, arguably the best mon of the whole draft board. He's got 3 Stealth Rock setters in Infernape, Lycanroc, and Clefable, which is pretty incredible. The defense is there, the offense is there. I think
they're on webs too with Leavanny.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's hard to exploit this team. I think, yeah, like B-Nard said, obviously that weakness to ground is a big deal because obviously how prevalent of a typing it is. Gyarados being realistically your only switch into it can be tough. But I mean,
of course, yeah, because you gotta keep in mind with these rosters, like, because I like to look at the whole roster top to bottom, and I think like, okay, he's got some stuff toward the bottom like the Cryogonal or the Leavanny, but like realistically, how often is he going to be bringing those Pokemon? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, and Gyarados additionally is going to be a Terra Captain, so odds are he's going to Terra into something that may not resist or be immune to ground. So yeah, like I said, that's really my one nit to pick with this team.
Yeah.
But other than that, really solid.
Absolutely agree. I think I do think Leavanny and Cryogonal are decent picks for like a late game or like late pickups, right? Because obviously they definitely do fill decent roles on his team that he doesn't have yet for like later picks. But like you said, realistically, it's still gonna, like, I could see him bringing Dragapult, Clefable, Infernape, and Gyarados to like almost every single game, right? And then the rest of it is going to be a little bit up to gamble, but. Yeah.
Another big con for me is, in addition to being weak to ground, he doesn't have a single ground type.
That's also big,
yeah. So there's no switch to Volt Switch on their team. And they have a Gyarados, so they're forced to Terra their Gyarados most of the time if they don't want to get spammed by Volt Switch. So
I imagine that thing is going to run Terra ground a lot.
But that's the thing too, is that makes it kind of predictable. You know what I mean?
Yep.
If you're forcing yourself to run Terra ground, then that's kind of another detriment for me.
Definitely. Like, if Leavanny is your only real switch into ground outside of Terra, that could definitely be a problem.
For sure, yeah.
Alright, let's get into ranking this team. What do you guys think? I'm thinking big threat, personally. I think it's a good team, but definitely not without flaws.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I would say definitely A or S, but I'll leave it up to you guys to decide that.
Yeah, I had big threat written down. I think it's a great team. I think, just like we said, some of those type weaknesses is kind of what brings it down to big threat.
Yep, I absolutely agree. All right, that's the first team ranked. Alright, we're going to move on to our fan favorite, our favorite British YouTuber. Let's have a look at the Wolverhampton Weaviles. Thoughts on this team, guys?
The British underdog himself.
Certainly. I guess I'll start off with this one. I think my absolute favorite part of this team, first of all, is the inclusion of the Darkrai. That's just amazing. I also think Jack has, like, in terms of Terra Captains, I think Terra Captains is always a huge deal, especially in our league when there's free Terra. And I think Heracross and Hisuian Typhlosion are amazing captains, both of them. I think he chose those very, very well.
Yeah, I would agree with that. The other thing I would say, one of the big notes I have about this team is I would say I think it's really well balanced, so you don't really see like an abundance of weakness to one thing or the other on this team. It's pretty well balanced.
Yeah.
The Terra Captains is another point I had. I agree with you 100%. He chose the Terra Captains very well. The one little bit of a negative I have to this team is I would say his roster is a little bit on the shallow side. It's not as deep as other teams. So what I mean by that is he's got picks like the Gabite or the Furret or the Victory Bell, like those lower tier picks where it's like how frequently are those going to come to any given week, you know what I mean? So that makes the team a little bit more on the predictable side. But other than that, he did a really good job, I think.
Yeah, I think the like the first 4 Pokemon really settle into that amazing core, right? The Darkrai and the Iron Bundle, really big threats, amazing speed tiers, and the Landorus and the Slowking pull off a really nice defensive core already. So like that's a massive start. Like those first 4 drafts are scary. The Terra Captains obviously play a big role in that, but I absolutely agree with what the captain said. I think Furret, Victory Bell, and Gabite are not going to show up very often, and that's 3 members that are like rather mediocre, and that will make the team very predictable indeed. Like I can see the first 4 coming to every game, and then it's pretty much up to the opponent to guess between Electros, Heracross, and Typhlosion which of those 3 is going to show up, which 2 out of those 3 is going to show up as well.
On most weeks, yeah. I will say, I do have to just add this real quick. I do like how he drafted the Landorus Theria, and a shout out to his icon, his hero, the infamous Joey Fontaine.
I had to go and mention that.
Very happy to see that. What do you think of this team, Emerald?
I was going to say, what do you think?
Yeah, this is the textbook definition of a top-heavy team, right? But they've got a lot of cool cores, like you said. They've also got the Slowking Galar, which could chilly reception into the Iron Bundle, giving it defense boost and giving 100% accurate blizzards. Got a lot of cool things like that. I think if they can also find a way to get Sun Up with this team, then you've got Victory Bell. I wish it could Terra Fire, but it's not a Terra Captain. But it can still put in work with Chlorophyll, and I mean, just spam Terra Fire eruptions in the sun with Typhlosion if you can get him up. But like you said, odds of seeing those lower Pokemon in most of the games are pretty low.
Yeah, I still think he could have gone for a better manual Sunsetter. Like if he had like a Rotom appliance or something to do that, then that would have been really good. But like having to wait, I don't even know if this mon gets Sunny Day, but like having to waste Sunny Day on like Galarian Slowking on Electros, you know, it's just to get value out of Victory Bell, and even then it can't Terra, so there's definitely going to be teams in which it struggles to make progress. I think those last 3 months really bring it down a notch, I think, but the basis is definitely still there, and the Terra Captains are amazing, and those definitely are going to play like a big role. Like this team, you know, like when you play against it, you could be playing through the match, and then just out of nowhere it's over because he sets up, or he just has a really big threat and it goes to town.
That's true. Definitely, also, we have to mention that their only form of hazard removal is Tidy Up for it.
Yeah,
so
that's
they've
a
got
big
to watch
weakness.
out for hazards.
Absolutely agree. I think realistically, Jack is going to run heavy duty boots a lot throughout this season.
For sure,
probably.
All right, let's get into the ranking of this team.
As far as that goes, I'm thinking a solid A rank. I mean, I know you guys are using the fun ones, but I don't remember which ones go with which. So, and I'm not smart enough to have it pulled up in front of me. So,
no worries.
Just saying the letters. So, I think this team is a solid A. I definitely wouldn't put it any higher, but I wouldn't put it any lower than an A.
I agree. Either. Emerald.
Yeah, I had it in Pokemon Viola material, but I think now that I realize that their only form of hazard removal is Tidy Up for it, that it's got to go to Big Threat.
Yeah. All right, let's move it up there. Now we're going to go back to team number 2, which is my team, the L.E.A.F agent. So because I drafted this team myself, but I'll let you guys go at it first, because this is because I definitely got my own stuff about it. I made the on-draft analysis about this. Guys, let me know. What do you think?
Yeah,
Yeah,
I feel like this
I-
team is a very cool. Oh, you go ahead, Captain.
Oh no, go for it, man. You got it.
Yeah, Zamazenta is such a cool Pokemon because you can come in and get that defense boost, and you can actually hold an item. And then you've got the freaking Shell Smash Torterra and the Quiver Dance Oricorio that can Terra, and then the Battle Bond Grin, which can get the boost after you get a kill. There's a lot of big threats on this team. What do you think, Cap?
Yeah, I would agree with that. I'd say another big plus that I have about this team is that I think it's really well-rounded. So again, you don't really see an abundance of unchecked weaknesses for this team either. The Terra Captains, I think, are pretty well-placed as well, with specifically the Torterra and the Oricorio. The Swalot is just kind of like whatever, because you have extra Terra points, so why not, right? Because I did the same thing with my team, but yeah, so I think it's really strong in that regard. I don't really have too much negative to say about it, quite honestly. But yeah.
Me personally, I think, despite getting a few snipes, I had Hisuian Samurott sniped off of me and Iron Moth as well. But even despite that, I think my only real criticism at this team is I'm a little bit weak to Ghost. And I don't actually have a good fire type, like Oricorio Baleform being my best fire type. Fire is a very important type to have on your team. And my best fire type is really just that Oricorio. But I think one thing I really like about my team is these Pokemon all get such good coverage. Spoiler alert, in week 1 for Pokemaster, I already played my first game. I'll try to avoid, real spoilers for you guys, but it was super difficult for his team to consistently wall mine. Like, the Zamazenta gets amazing coverage, Cleavor is packed with coverage, Torterra in this gen especially, as well as the Terra Captain. Goodra, Cap, you should know this better than anyone, Goodra has amazing coverage as well. It's just so difficult to wall this because I feel like I can pretty much prepare for almost any defensive core. There's also a pretty good mixture between physical and special attackers. I feel like the way you beat this team is out offensive, not wall it.
Yeah, I would agree with that for sure. It's going to be hard. This is going to be a tough nut to crack for sure.
Mm-hmm. So what do you guys think ranking wise?
I'm thinking S, to be honest with you, because I don't really have kind of the way I'm doing these is if I don't really have anything bad to say about the team, that's going to push it up a little higher for me. So, and like I said, there's a couple teams, like 2 or 3 of them, I think, in this draft that I don't really have anything bad to say, and this is one of them. So I'd probably say S.
I think for me as well, especially after the week 1 game, I think I don't want to. I have trouble saying this about my own team, but I think it's S as well. Pokemon Violent material. Emerald.
Yeah, I agree. I was trying to write down some cons, and I couldn't really come up with much. The only con I'll say is that the Zamazenta, I don't think it has Sword Stance, right? It has to rely on Howl.
It does have Howl,
but you also have Iron Defense Body Press.
Mm-hmm. That's a big deal.
So I mean, that was the only con I had. Other than that, you've got plenty of setup. Otherwise, you got great defensive cores. Top tier team.
All right. I'm happy to hear it, man. All right, Leaf Agents are going in Pokemon Violet material. And on to another person in this call. We're going to have a look at the Philadelphia Pidgeys.
There you go.
Let's have a look.
We be repping.
Yeah.
Emerald,
I'll
you want to take it away?
you guys take more of the lead on this one since I drafted it.
Mm-hmm. Emerald, thoughts?
Yeah. I mean, you've got the Palafin right there. All you have to do is switch it at one time, bring it in, and then you've got a Pokemon with box legendary stats. And then you've also got such great defensive Pokemon like Goodra and Orthworm. And you've got the freaking Shell Smash Poltergeist. You got the freaking Ogerpon Hearthflame that can SD Trailblaze. You've got the Glamora that can set up all the hazards you need and Mortal spin them away. But also the biggest thing that pushed this team over the edge for me was the fact that you've got a whole freaking Trick Room mode, dude, with the freaking Farigiraf and the Mudsdale and the Hariyama.
Yeah.
Like, I could see you going that way. So you've got a lot of different ways that you could build this team in any one week. So
the funny thing I had about this team is when the draft was actually starting, right? Palafin obviously was an amazing first pick. Absolutely agree with that. And then obviously the loyal Goodra pick came. But then you picked like Orthorb and Kilowattrel. Good mons. I respect the commitment to the Orthorb as well, and obviously especially the Goodra that you always infamously draft. But I was like, this is not a good, necessarily an amazing start. And then, like, because you picked up quite a few lower point mons, and either everyone was grabbing the big threats. But like I feel like really towards the end you really picked it back up again. Like the late game Glabora pickup I think was really good. Hariyama, in my opinion, incredibly underrated in draft because of its great bulk coverage and obviously it hits like a truck. The same thing goes for Iron Hands. I'm shocked that Iron Hands went undrafted 2 seasons in a row. I think the Terra Captains, Kilowatt Roll, Poltegeist, really scary to prep for. And there's definitely like there's big defense of course. Gudra, borderline unbreakable on the special side. Earthworm and Mudsdale, unbreakable on the physical side. There's even the Wigglytuff. Like, don't sleep on Wigglytuff, man. This thing's, especially as a Terra Captain, this mon can come out of nowhere. And like, it's not. I know it's not the best, and never will be. But if you don't expect it, it can still do some annoying things, and like disrupt you.
Counter to Dragapult.
Yeah.
Number 1 counter to Dragapult.
Yep.
Wigglytuff.
Exactly.
Right
Immune to both stabs.
Yeah.
So I think for me, this team is actually quite well put together towards the end. You've definitely got the hazard game. Like I said, the Terra Captains are very good, and yeah, you definitely got like the value out of your mons. If I have to say, I think the only real problem I have with this team is it's got a bit of a power problem, because the Palafin and the Ogerpon are really hard hitters, and obviously Gudra, if you decide to go offensive with it, and Hariyama, those can hit hard, but there's not, especially on the special side, there's not...
Well, you got Poltegeist right there with 134 attack!
Yes, that's absolutely amazing. No, but I mean, like, I think this team lacks immediate power. That's my only real issue.
Glamora's got like 130 attack too, bro. You can run that. You don't have to run Glamora's utility. You can run that thing offensive.
Absolutely. But it doesn't have like... What I mainly mean is there's no... outside of like maybe Gudra and Glamora, there's not really like any particularly mind-bogglingly... Like there's no Chiyo on this team, put it that way. But yeah, that's really my only criticism. Like it's...
I'll give you a little bit of insight into what I was thinking when I drafted this team. So I wanted to draft a team that was full of Pokemon that on any given week could all be possible options. So I wanted to make a deep roster, and I feel that I accomplished that.
I see that. Yeah, I think prepping against this team is actually very difficult. That's another big positive pointer I have. Yep,
that was a big thing for me. But also, I kind of wanted to pick up like one top level threat like the Palafin, obviously at the top there. And then everything else kind of filled in, from there. I do kind of agree with your criticism as far as that there's the stuff that I have that can be threats need a little bit of a setup in order to be a threat. So yeah, like obviously Palafin you have to switch in and out with, Poltegeist you have to Shell Smash. But I think that another thing that I wanted to do when I put this together was also make it really well-rounded, and I think I did that too as far as like balancing weaknesses and all that kind of stuff.
Speed tiers are also amazing, I have to say.
Yes, yeah, that was kind of by accident, to be honest with you, because I was like about halfway through the draft, I was like, oh wow, this is a faster team than I usually put together. But yeah, I like my team a lot. Obviously, I drafted it, so I'd say the only real regret that I have about this team, if any, is I would like to have a little more immediate power on the special side, but other than that, I'm really happy with this draft. And it's like I said, the two big things I wanted to do when I drafted this were make a team that on any one given week, any Pokemon could be coming, and so a deep roster and also a balanced roster. So
yep.
But yeah,
let's get into the ranking of this team. I'm torn between Big Threat and Pokemon Violent material. I think it's very good. Very little criticisms. The Terra Captains, obviously, the Terra Captains for me really are like what decides a good and a bad team. For me, I think that's a really, really big deal. And this team's Terra Captains are amazing. So it's, I'm curious what you think, Emerald. I'm torn between Big Threat and Violent material.
I have Pokemon Violent material. Like the only criticism I had was pretty much the same as you, that like you need a little bit of setup. You have to get the Palafin, you have to Shell Smash the Poltegeist. But I feel like if you can do that and accomplish that, then there's not going to be much stopping you.
Yeah, and I feel like the difficulty of prepping against this team is going to put us over the edge. Right, Violent material it is. Where's his logo? There it is. We're going.
I was going to say I hesitate to rank myself, but I would probably be torn between A and S myself. So I'm going to side with you guys and go S, because why not? I deserve it.
Trick Room mode really pushed me over the edge. The fact that you just have a whole bunch of mods that can effectively use Trick Room too.
Yep, that's scary.
I didn't even think of that. Good point.
Just gave him ideas. All right, let's move on to the Mamoswine Doubters, coached by Raymond. What do you guys think?
Do you want me to take the lead on this
one?
Yeah,
go ahead.
All right. So, I got to be honest with you. I am not really a big fan of this team. So I think that it has a really strong Dragon Fairy Steel Core. That's a positive for me.
Also, apologies, this roster is still wrong. I've got Blissey on my screen right now, but that was for week 2. That will be Dragalge, I think it is. But sorry, go on.
Yes, there was a switch, which I actually kind of disagree with that as well. But I gotta say, other than that, a couple of criticisms that I have with this team are, number one, the Terra Captain placements. So I think that having Doug Trio, and I guess when Blissey goes away and is replaced with Dragalge, that's going to be a Terra Captain, right?
Yep.
So I don't really see a great value in having those Pokemon in Terra Captains. Now, I think the reason he did that is because he drafted a lot of Pokemon, like he's got a lot of strong defensive Pokemon, like the Corviknight, the Azumarill, Zapdos, that kind of thing. But he doesn't have like anything that's super good that is Terra able, because obviously you can only Terra 10 points or lower in this league. So that's one kind of criticism I have. The other criticism I have is I think that the roster here is a bit shallow because, again, you have those bottom picks like the Dracloak, the Hisuian Sneasel, even the Dragalge, which, you know, could be a threat sometimes, but like, especially those last couple picks, like how often are those going to come? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think this roster is a little predictable and a little shallow. I don't really like the Terra Captain placement. So to be completely honest, I was expecting a little more from Raymond, our current reigning Pokemon scholar. So I don't think it's a terrible team, don't get me wrong, but like I don't think this is that great of a team, to be honest with you guys.
To be honest, I think well, Raymond, first of all, he did say that he was playing for fun, right? So it's understandably so that he didn't go for like the best team ever, and that's respectable. I absolutely agree with what you said. I think this team is probably the most predictable team, because like if I look at the first 6, I would just be expecting DC, like Bax, Zapdos, Azumarill, Azelf, Corviknight, and Duck Trio. I would be expecting that like almost every single week. I think Blissey, even as a Terra Captain, is way too predictable in draft. It's too passive for my liking, and it's way too easy to prep for. Like let's just assume Ray faces me, which is the case, by the way. I'm going to say this because Blissey is not like dropping from the team. But let's say I face Blissey with my Hisuian Goodra, right? Typically, Goodra is a special attacker. I can just slap on Body Press and call it a day. That's Blissey beat. And there's so many other special attackers that can do that. Just slap on any physical move, especially a fighting move, and they just beat Blissey one-on-one because its physical defense is so trash. I actually discussed this with Ray as well when we were done drafting. I think his faith in Duck Trio as a trapper is just too high. Like he's talked to me a bit about it. We discussed how he was going to pick up Duck Trio and how he really wanted to make Arena Trap work, and how the Terra Captain was going to help him with that. But honestly, I think the counterplay to Duck Trio, like you can just run U-turn, you can run a Shed Shell to escape the trap, you can just... there's so many ways to counterplay Duck Trio, and the fact that that's his main Terra Captain, I think...
Well, let's not forget, Trio's very frail as well, too, so like you can just hack it and knock it out.
Yeah,
you know?
if you outspeed it, which, like, its speed is good at base 120, but it's not something that Scarfers can't outspeed, you know? It dies to so many things. And even if, let's say there is a Mon that, like, you can also just slap on a Sugar Berry, you know? Let's say you have, I mean, no one's picked up this Mon, but let's say you have an Iron Thorns, you could just pick up a Sugar Berry and just kill it, you know?
Yes,
I feel like this team is just way too predictable to actually be really consistent. Now, Ray is an amazing battler. He won the first season for a reason. But I think this is again, I don't want to say bottom tier, but this really does look like a coachable carry team to me.
Yeah, I hate to kind of keep on throwing on the hits for poor Raven, but after they switched out that Blissey, they pretty much made themselves have no switch-ins to Ghost. And I'm not sure, did anyone draft Spectraire this time? But
I don't remember.
Oh yeah, surely somebody did. But
we'll
I mean, if you don't have a Ghost switch-in, I mean, we saw what could happen in Notorious HIM versus Bread. I mean, that thing could just start rolling.
It just clicks buttons.
They've also got very few switch-ins to Ice. They're fairly weak to Ice after that Dragalge switch, so it just kind of opened up their weaknesses. It did give them a better special attacker that can hit hard, but at the same time, Dragalge is also very slow. So
I really feel like this team relies way too much on Azumarill and Baxcalibur. If you can deal with those two, then you've got this team beat.
Yeah, I think you can really, if you said he was drafting this team for fun, it really shows. And I agree with you also when you say yes, he's an incredible battler, obviously reigning champ for a reason. But we're not really judging the teams based on that. We're judging them more on how composition.
Exactly.
So, for me, I would probably put this one. I don't know if I'd put it like all the way down, but I'd probably put it at like C level to me.
Yeah, for me, this is either a decent team at best, or even coach will carry the bottom tier.
Oh, yeah, I would say decent team because at least they've got some threats that they can use. But
the Baxcalibur, we should never sleep on.
I was going to say, yeah, Baxcalibur, Zapdos, Azumarill, Corviknight, those are great Pokemon, don't get me wrong. But again, like we had said before, predictable is the problem.
Exactly.
Yep. All right, decent team it is.
Agreed.
Let's move on to the California Trailblazers, my week 1 opponent, Pokemaster 88.
Ah, here we go.
So I guess I'll take away this one because I had to build against this team in week 1. So I really like Chris's team. Similar to when I faced, or not when I faced, sorry. Similar to when we looked at Jack's team, the Terra captains really pulled this away for me. I think Iron Jugulis and Espeon are amazing Terra captains. Spoiler alert, Iron Jugulis went crazy week 1 against me. But so those two are definitely a big factor. And it's like he's got the Hazards game with Iron Treads. That's an amazing mon to have. The speed tiers are really good as well. 4 mons above base 100 is really tough to compete with. And like this is one of those teams, like this is really quality over quantity in my opinion. Like with the exception of Sableye, I could see all of the 8 mons come to most weeks. And it's like he's got immediate physical power with Meow, he's got the immediate special power with Chandelure. Like that's really a Chi-Yu-esque Pokemon, right? He's got physical walls with Iron Treads and Weezing. He's got special walls with Slowking and even the Espeon if he wants to. Especially defensive, it's a little bit more tough, but it's still not like you've got Slowking, right? That's an amazing mon. He's got momentum all over the place. He's got hazard control. I think this team is actually really well put together.
Yeah, I can see the Sableye coming. Yeah. Because the Sableye can also do things like set up screens, it can gravity for an Iron Treads. Like, the Sableye has so much utility that
as a last ditch
mon, worth bringing.
It's really good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. The notes that I have about this team are, I think it's capable of applying a lot of offensive pressure, which is obviously good. It's definitely... Or to me, it's more of an offensive team than a defensive team. Although he still has some good defensive options too, like the Weezing, Galar, the Slowking, even the Iron Treads to an extent. But yeah, this is definitely more of an offensive team, which can certainly be a good thing, but it can also be a bad thing too. Because as we had seen with more offensive teams last season, it's like if you get on the back foot, then you're gonna struggle to kind of defend yourself if you get in that position, The other thing I would note is, which is kind of what you said, as far as the team being a little shallow for me. Again, he only did draft 9 mons, and then again the Sableye, though it is a good utility mon, again I don't see that coming too often. So it's like those first 8 picks are very solid. Terra captains are well placed, as you said. But again, it does make the team a little more on the predictable side because...
in my week 1 game, I literally predicted the whole team, like, perfectly.
Yes.
Yeah,
so,
sure.
Yeah, so as far as ranking goes, I'm probably thinking either an A or a B level.
I agree. Between those two, it's tough to pick, but what do you think, Emerald?
I think that because they have pretty good tight matchups, like I went through, they don't really have any glaring weaknesses. They've got a lot of good utility. I feel like it could be worth putting in the big threat, but at the same time, they're kind of overly reliant on like Ho-Oh or like that's really the only mon that gets set up.
I think so too. Like, I think one of the criticisms. I agree. I think one of the criticisms I have at Chris's team is it's like, and also as another thing that the captain said, if you get up. If you can set up against this team and you can deal with the 2 physical walls, Iron Treads and Galarian Weezing, you just win.
You're gonna run through it. Yeah, it doesn't really have the defensive core to kind of mitigate a situation that if someone sets up, you're gonna be in big trouble with this team. So that said, I'm kind of leaning more toward a B to be honest with you.
Yeah, I think I agree. I think this what this team could have really used is an unaware mon.
To the other teams, I would put it in solid team.
All right, we're going in solid team. Cool. on to the next, which I believe is Beardo. Also known as Beardo from the Discord, so go ahead and yeah, yada yada. Alright, let's discuss
It's the best place to go.
For Pokemon Scarlet and Violet Weaviles. Right, funny intro done.
It really is.
Atacama Tyranitars, lads, what are we thinking?
I'm thinking he needs to rebrand as the ABCDEFG Tyranitars.
So you can actually pronounce the team name.
Yes, so I can pronounce it. But no,
Yes.
I will say I do like this team. Some of the positive notes I have about it are I think he has a good combination of being able to apply offensive and defensive pressure.
Yeah, agree.
I really like the Garchomp obviously can do both. The Scissor can do both. Even Rotom, Milotic to a point. They can all do both, so it's a really good balance of being able to apply offensive and defensive pressure. Once again, I think Terra Captains are, I'm not going to say they're like insane, but they're decent, I would say, with the Brute Bonnet and the Suyan Braviary. The Persian is just kind of whatever.
Leftover points.
I will
right?
kind of, yeah, and that's a why not Terra Captain, just like Swalot and Wigglytuff, but I think I'm going to have the same criticism of this team as I've had for a couple of the other ones, which is I think the roster's a little shallow, because again, it's like he did draft 10, but then it's like you got the Persian and the Pupitar of all things, which is like, I get why he got it, gimmicky, haha, it is funny, but are those Mons going to come that much, especially in Pupitar's case? I don't think so. So that does make the team a little more on the predictable side, but still a solid team. I have to shout out that he's got 2 Season 1 Philadelphia Pidgeys on there with the Iron Moth and the Brute Bonnet.
Oh, yeah.
We will see if his strategy of using Brute Bonnet will take his team farther than my strategy of not using Brute Bonnet.
I think as a Terra Captain, it's going to put in a lot more work, to be honest. I think...
Fair.
To be honest, because we have 100 points this season only to work with, I think most teams are going to be a little bit on the shallow side. I actually wouldn't call this team shallow, because yeah, the Persian and the Pupitar are not going to come, but that's still 8 Mons that you could realistically expect, and that's a lot still. And the obviously the Brute Bonnet and the Hisuian Braviary are definitely not quite on par with the rest of the team, but they're Terra Captains, so that makes up for it. And I really feel like first of all, screw you, Beardo, for sniping with the Iron Moth, but I feel like the Iron Moth, and the Brute Bonnet, the Iron Moth and the Hisuian Braviary give him a really strong, especially attacking core. The Garchomp and the Scizor and the Brute Bonnet form a really good physical breaking core. He's got walls as well. He's got my beloved Malfunction, the former Leaf agent, which can go both ways. The Screamtail can go both ways. Milotic also very defensive. So it's a very well balanced team, I feel like. And again, 8 consistent Mons you can bring to battle. Even the Persian, as a Terra Captain, don't underestimate this thing. It definitely could come and catch a few people off guard. Terra Normal Fury Stripes hits like a truck for a Mon of its value. I think this team is actually very well put together, and the only real criticism I have of it is just 2 bulky water types. If you can deal with if your team can deal with bulky waters, you might run through it. But that's it, really.
Yeah, doubling up on the bulky waters is a bit off-putting for me, but also, this just might be a criticism from me. I don't know how you guys feel about it, but they only have defoggers, they don't have rapid spinners, and just for me as a man that likes to set up hazards versus my opponents, forcing myself to remove my own hazards to remove theirs, I just don't like that.
This team is free for Almond.
Because then it's like yeah.
He's going to be able to get up Sticky Web, and there's no way for him to remove it because he just brings in Golden Go every time.
Exactly.
Yeah, there you go.
All right.
Yeah, so as far as rankings go, I'm leaning toward A, to be honest with you. I think it's a really solid team, but it's not without its issues. So,
yeah.
But I would put it about A.
Same. I think I agree. Emerald?
Yeah, I think the fact that you have a Brute Bonnet, which is one of the few Pokemon in the entire game that can have Spore, and that it can Terra, so it's much more likely to get off a Spore and not just get U-turned. I think that pushes it over the edge to A for me.
Yep. All right, A tier it is.
Fair enough.
Moving on to the Neverdying Annihilapes, coached by the iciest of dudes. First of all, this team is fat. Holy moly.
Yeah, you got the Tinglu and the Pex.
Defensive teams.
Yeah, this is definitely the most... this is the hardest team to break, for sure. But, yeah, food for thoughts, guys. What do you think?
I don't know. At the same time, they have 3 ground types. They have like 5 Pokemon weak to water. I just feel they've got 3 dark types. They have 2 Primates. I just feel like it's hat on a hat on a hat. You know what I mean? I just feel like they've got a lot of weaknesses that we can exploit. Even though they're a bulky team, I just feel like if you have all those weaknesses, what does it matter if you've got all the bulk in the world?
Once you get rid of Toxapex, any water type just sweeps through this, like a Dragonlance Gyarados and Urshifu Rapid Strike.
Yeah, so I agree with you, and this is actually very reminiscent of Icy Dude's team in Season 1, honestly. It was very defensive, very bulky, but also not very well type balanced. So, as you mentioned, he's got a lot of water weaknesses, he's got a lot of fairy weaknesses.
I was about to say, yeah, a lot of fairy weaknesses as well.
Yeah,
Yep.
So on the other hand, I will say I think this is a deep roster because he does have, obviously he drafted 11, but even his lower value picks are stuff that you could feasibly see coming to some games. I know he's got the Glimmet for 1 point, which is like, obviously it's Glimmet, but Premier Hazard Setter for what it is, obviously for 1 point, but he does have some power there with the Chi-Yu, the Annihilate, obviously. So I do like this team, but I think it's a decent team for sure. But like I said, it's very reminiscent of his team from Season 1. I think the Terra Captains are actually pretty decently placed, although like nothing to write home about. But the Hisuian Electrode and the Primeape as Terra Captains are pretty good because if you have Eviolite Primeape Terraing, that could be a threat.
I do love me a good old Terra Ghost Rage Face with Primeape.
Yeah,
Yes,
I've done that a couple
and also
times in Wi-Fi battles. That's good.
Yes, and also the Hisuian Electrode, I think. Obviously, you can fix its coverage options with Terra, so it's a good team, I think. But like we said, it does have those same type balance issues that he seemed to have in the first season.
Yeah, I think this team is a little bit of a matchup fish, to be honest. I could see this team either 6-0ing or getting 6-0'd. Because if you really lack the types that this team is weak to, it's gonna stonewall you forever, and Annihilate is just gonna set up and win. And Chi-Yu is incredibly hard mon to guard against. If Chi-Yu comes scarfed and you're not ready for it, then it just takes out all your offensive threats needed to break through the team. So Absolutely. It definitely is not without strength.
Yep. All of that said, I think, in my opinion, I'd probably throw this into the B tier personally.
Yeah.
It's just I might put it a little higher, but just the lack of type balance and weakness balance is just I couldn't justify it going any higher than that personally.
For me personally, it's the Terra Captains just being good. They're good choices, but it's no Torterra that can shell smash. There's no real sweepers as Terra Captains. I really feel like that's for me also what keeps it in the B tier.
Yeah, the only other note I have is that they have Donphan, which is probably one of the, outside of Great Tusk, is one of the best rapid spinners. Honestly, I wanted Donphan, but they sniped me, but I've made my peace with it, but hopefully they can use it.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right there. You're right.
All right, we made it to the halfway point. I think the next coach on the list is none other... No, wait, is it? Or is it still... No, wait, we still have Lionel. Sorry, I was about to say we were going to Emeraldminer, but not yet. We have Lionel's team, the Brawling Conkeldurrs.
Yes.
So I guess I'll start this one off. I'm not a big fan of this team, I have to admit. I think it started off pretty bad. It definitely got quite a bit better after a few transactions. I think first of all, the thing that puts me off about this team is the Terra Captains. Conkeldurr and Sinistcha, they're decent, but that's it. And the thing about this team as well, that I really feel like it struggles with, is the main offensive threats are Urshifu, because it's Urshifu, it's Urshifu Single Strike. Urshifu Single Strike and Volcarona. Both of these mons have 4 times weaknesses to Fairy and Rock respectively. I really feel like this team's offensive threats are too easy to deal with, and then from there on out the rest of the team is just like support. Like Regieleki, let's be honest, if you have a ground type it just gets negated to support. Thunderous is just not a threat anymore, Tornadus is just not a threat anymore. Pheasantipity, it's a wall, it's good, but this team, if you can deal with Volcarona and Urshifu, it just, the Conkeldurr are scary, yes, but it just doesn't really make progress. I feel like this team has way too much support.
Yeah, Lionel,
Yeah,
buddy, I really got to ask you, why did you draft Tornadus? I mean, you're going to try to Tailwind and then get out, but then you've got like 2 turns to abuse it. You can set up... Who's he setting up Sunny Day for? Volcarona? That's it. There's no one to take advantage of what Tornadus can offer, which isn't that much in singles. So I feel like you just need to take off Tornadus and put something else there.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I kind of have the same opinion as you guys. I might think a little bit better of the team than you guys, but because so the pluses I have for this team is I think the ability for this team to apply offensive pressure is actually pretty good. I will say that. So you got like the Urshifu and the Volcarona are capable of applying enormous offensive pressure. But other than that, I agree with the criticisms that you guys have. The Terra Captains are kind of like they're okay, but they're not great, I would say. I also noticed that he has a lot of flying weaknesses on this team, like a lot of unchecked flying weaknesses. But other than that, the team seems a little underwhelming, quite honestly. It's not bad, I think, but it's nothing to write home about. So that's kind of my assessment of that.
I can see this team being super easy to prep for. Because slacking, you just put protect on any mono, you just dominate it 1v1. The Bronzong, I feel like there's also a little tab on this document, right, with the utility. Look at how empty this utility section is. There's nothing.
That's what I was gonna say. There's no spikes. There's no T spikes. Yep. I mean, there's only Rockers, Bronzong. So basically, you have to bring Bronzong every single time. That's one mon they're gonna bring.
Yep.
So yeah.
Even with the stuff like Pheasantipity, like I like Pheasantipity a lot, but its coverage is very limited. So
it's kind of relying on Toxic
Chain, right?
That's
kind of the same thing. Yeah, and that's
the beat up.
The Pokemon like that and Regieleki that just have such limited coverage. I would say I'm probably thinking like C for this team, to be honest, because it's not terrible. Like again, you have the Urshifu and the Volcarona, which could very well sweep you if you're not careful. But other than that, there's not a lot going on.
To be honest,
to me this is almost like a VGC draft team, because you got the Tornadus, you got the Sinistcha, you've got the Urshifu single strike. I just feel like this team, some of these mons at least, would be better suited in VGC.
Yeah, I feel honestly, I'm thinking this is the first D tier team. Even I'm not a big fan of it, I have to say. What's your take on the Emerald?
Looks like Emerald's the tiebreaker here.
Yeah, I have it in Coach will carry. I'm sorry to say, Lionel, buddy, but.
All right, D
you can fix it.
Our first
some transactions. Get rid of that. Get rid of that Tornadus.
He's only got one transaction left, buddy. That's gonna be difficult.
Oh no! Oh no!
Is he the one that did all the transactions?
Yeah, he is.
Okay.
Well,
is this accurate then? So like, I have to see. Like, what were the transactions? Some of these Pokemon that we've been talking about.
Oh no, this is accurate. No, this is definitely after the transactions.
No, this is accurate.
Yep.
Oh jeez, he had Ogerpon. Why did you get rid of Ogerpon for Sinistcha, brother? It can hold an item. Oh no, I'm so sorry to say. the classic emeraldminer. I'm sorry to say.
Yeah. Well, I mean, hey, we'll see what happens. Like I said, I guess we'll have to see if he can make something of it for sure.
All right, the first D2 team, and we're moving on to the West Texas Arcanines, coached by Arcaniner 52. Thoughts on this one, guys? First of all, inclusion of former Leaf agent Great Tusk. Love it.
Love it. I actually do like this team quite a lot, I will tell you. This is my week 1 opponent, so I've been prepping as of the last couple hours. I've been prepping for our game. But I do like this team a lot. I think the stuff that I have written down that I like about this team, I like the balance, so it seems to be a very balanced team. There's no glaring weaknesses to anything particular that I can see.
Let me double check.
Especially the Jolteon to me is a really, really strong Terra Captain, I think.
For sure.
And so I like that stuff. I don't really have too much negative to say about it, honestly. I'll let you guys fill that in, but I do like this team a lot. I think it's well put together. Obviously, the Great Tusk is great. The Grimmsnarl for defensive, and Empoleon obviously is great defensively. Jolteon, great offensively. So, I guess my only kind of sort of criticism of the team is it does seem a little underwhelming as far as it doesn't seem like there's anything that's super OP on the team. But other than that, I think it's really solid.
Emerald?
Yeah, that's what I was thinking too. You've got Ambipom, Trevenant, and you got Pyroar. And well, they are towards the end, but I mean, there's no Ubers, there's no Darkrai, there's no anything else like that. You've got Great Tusk, which is great, no you. And you got Haxorus, which can Dragon Dance.
Oh, so Great Tusk is also great in draft, let me tell you.
Screens. Oh, I'm saying it's great, but there's just nothing that's pushing it over the edge for me, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I agree. I think my main criticism of the team is that you've got Haxorus, you've got Great Tusk, you've got Gallade, even the Lycanroc Dust to an extent. There's amazing physical power on the team. On the special side, however, Specs Pyroar and Specs Jolteon. Is that really your best way of doing special? Like this team, for example, could really struggle against your Goodra, Cap. Like, I could really struggle.
I sure hope so.
Yeah, I think it's going to struggle against your Goodra. And I mean, obviously, Noisepotter, I don't know if you're actually bringing it or not. I'm going to assume so. But I think that's the main weakness of it. I do think, however, that this team is difficult to prep for. I think the overall quality of Pokemon, like all of these Pokemon, do something, right? They all have good utility. They all have their place. I think definitely like the Grimmsnarl supporting the Haxorus before Dragon Down sweeps, or even the Great Tusk with like a bulk up Rapid Spin set, or the Gallade with agility. Like, there definitely are things it can do. It's definitely got the speed control. Like, having Talonflame and Jolteon on the same team, it's going to be tough to outspeed everything on this. And I'm not sure how I feel about Talonflame as a Terra Captain, but I mean, maybe it's got some pretty good offensive utility with Gale Wings. But Jolteon is an amazing Terra Captain. Like, that goes without saying.
Hard. Yeah, I gotta tell you, having used Talonflame a lot, it does hit pretty hard, harder than people would think. I usually put a Band on mine, but it does hit pretty hard. Let's
have a quick moment to realize, though, that Amoonguss has a higher attack stat than Talonflame. That's always a fact that I think is very funny, and it doesn't hit it does. Yeah, it actually does, and that makes me not really appreciate his power.
That was the meme in Gen 6. It was like, this Mon with Gale Wings is so weak in terms of his actual attack.
It's only like a 2 or 3 point difference, but it's the fact that this Mon in realistically hits, the fact that Mungus hits harder is a big deal. But I think, honestly, the type diversity is there, the threats are there. Again, few cons, but I think this team, I wouldn't say Pokemon Violet material, but I think it's definitely like an A or a B tier.
I'd probably say A, honestly, because it is very well rounded, like I said, and I do like the Terra Captain placement, so I'd probably go. I definitely wouldn't put it in Violet material, but I would definitely put it in A.
Yeah. Emerald?
I don't know. I'm thinking B. I'm just looking at these types here, and I'm seeing, well, they have a lot of weaknesses, but I guess they also have some resists. Just like I said, nothing really like that's pushing it into that A tier for me. But if you guys, I mean, they do have Dragon Dance and Light Screens. If you guys think that that's worth putting it in A tier,
I think it's merely the fact that
B tier.
I think personally the fact that pushes me it over the edge for me, contrary to what you just said. I think a lot of weaknesses not the worst if you have 11 Pokemon, and all of these Pokemon have good qualities. So I really feel like this, like he does have the weaknesses, but I feel like it might be difficult to exploit those because you never really quite know what's coming. And I really feel like that unpredictability factor is huge in draft and pushes it to A tier for me. Probably a lower A tier, but
I agree with that.
I think we'll see if we can order the tiers after this, but I think it should be A tier.
I guess that's true. You guys have a full team. I mean, yeah, realistically, you could bring Ambipom, Trevenant, Pyroar to the games too. Like you said, talking about predictability. So I guess if we're thinking in terms of like a Swiss Army knife, like having all these different options, then yeah, it pushes it.
Yeah, I would think of it as a Swiss Army knife. Yeah, Swiss Army knife. It doesn't have a ton of lethal options, but just the fact that there's so many options is definitely a plus.
All right, on to the next one, and I believe now we have the Demewlition Force by the one and only emeraldminer. So,
all right,
my thoughts on this is Violet material. Holy moly, I think this team is amazing. I think the Iron Valiant, I mean, obviously last season you had Dragapult, now you have Iron Valiant. The try-hard picks are there, but hey, I respect it. The Heatran, we've seen...
If they're there, I'm going to take them.
Yeah, the Heatran, I think, is... it did do very well for Beardo last season, but I think this Mon definitely still has really good potential. We've seen Pokémon used it in like 2 draft leagues almost. Ogerpon Wellspring, in my opinion, probably the best Ogerpon form in draft. I don't know, like this Mon has 12 points, I think was a mistake. I think it's a massive steal. The hazard control is there with both Defog and the Toadscruel. The type diversity is there. Obviously, there is still the 2 the two electric types and the two flying types, but like they're not tight. Like obviously, I watched your draft analysis, and obviously you're lacking things like a bug type, and I think rock type is also missing. But those are not the biggest deal in the world. I love the inclusion of Frostlass as well. I mean, I've used that mon last season. I think it's an excellent addition to your team and just a great Pokemon in general. I was really curious why you picked up Indeedee, but then when I saw the Hawlucha pick, I was like, oh dear, this is going to be scary. At least it can't Terra this season, but I still think it's a very scary mon, personally. And another thing that really pushes this team to Pokemon Violet material, in my opinion, is the Terra Captains. Toxtricity, in my opinion, could be the best Terra Captain available on the board. We've seen what Stefan did it with last season. It was an amazing mon, and the fact that it can still Terra with that Terra normal Boom Burst or Terra Flying defensively for Shift Gear. This mon is super difficult to prepare for, and Hoopa as well. I mean, classic MV. We've seen what this mon can do, and and that's with restricted Terra types. Our league has free Terra. I think this team just has almost everything you need in a draft team. Really, I think it's amazing. Easily Pokemon Violet material, in my opinion. But what do you think, Cap?
Yeah, so I agree with just about everything you just said. We'd be remiss if we didn't mention the electric terrain core on this team.
Yep.
Yes.
The fact that I see those Season 1 Philadelphia Pidgeys, the Hawlucha and the Pink Urchin there,
That's right.
combined with the Iron Valiant, obviously. So my positive notes, number one is going to be synergy, like I just said. So there's great synergy there with the electric terrain strategy on the team. The amount of offensive pressure that this team can apply is really, really incredible.
Yeah, oh my god.
But you also have defensive stuff like the Heatran, the Mandibuzz, that kind of stuff. This is a really well put together, really well-rounded team, honestly. The only negatives that I really have about it are I feel like there are an abundance of fairy and flying weaknesses on this team that are a little bit unchecked. But other than that, I think this is a really strong, really well put together team. I'm not going to. I think Scorpion likes it a little more than I do, but I do like this team a lot, and I do agree with you. It is most certainly Pokemon Violet material.
Thank you. Yeah. If I had to, I would have had Donphan over the Toedscruel just to remove a little bit of that flying weakness. But I'm fine with Toedscruel too because it gives me access to Spore, which I do have to be careful, like I said in my draft analysis, of making sure I don't use it when electric terrain's up. But my overall strategies, I'm just going to try to hit people so hard that I won't have to worry. A good defense is the best offense.
Mm-hmm. What I also like about this team is the defensive mons are just not passive at all either. Like Heatran with that Magma Storm obviously hits incredibly hard. The Mandibuzz can be a little bit passive, but Foul Play does fix that to an extent. And the rest of the team just fights back so hard.
With a knockoff?
Yeah, that as well.
Was dropped.
Yep.
Right. In my opinion, we're going to rank it, in my opinion, easily Pokemon Violet material. Where is it? There it is. So, this is coming off as such bias, because the only three teams we placed at the top are our own three teams. Yeah. Now, right? This may be a little bit biased.
That was occurring to me, actually. Yeah, that was occurring to me as you were putting it up there. I was like, wait a second, we only have 3 S-rank teams, and it's the 3 of us.
Yeah, it's the 3 of us. So, I mean, we're trying to stay as unbiased as possible, right? This isn't even intentional, but maybe we'll move the tiers around a bit, and maybe there'll be another Pokemon Violet material. We'll see. Let's move on to the next one for now, and that is going to be the construction site Conkeldurrs, coached by Almond, their newcomer. Sticky Web. What do you guys think?
All right, so I have mixed feelings about this team. I'm going to tell you, this is if you want to talk about top-heavy teams, I think this kind of goes in that bracket for sure. There are a lot of high-power threats on this team, like Goldango, Mew, Quackleval, Salamence, just to name a few. But honestly, the problem I have with this team is that, again, to go back to a criticism I've used quite a few times here, I think the roster is kind of shallow because you got those picks toward the end, like the Girder and the Hisuian Quillfish, which is like, okay, decent Eviolite users for sure, but like realistically, how often are you going to bring those over the rest of the team? Mm-hmm. Additionally, I think the Terra Captain placement on this team is pretty poor, to be honest.
Heavily agree.
I think the reason
heavily agree.
Right, and the reason for that is because this team is so top-heavy, none of the premier threats on this team are capable of terraing. Therefore, they had to make their Terra captains. Like if you look at their roster, the only Pokemon that they have that are capable of being Terra captains.
Yeah, this has to be it, right? There's no other alternative.
Yeah. So I think that's a mistake personally on this team. And while I do think it is a good team, it's definitely got its benefits. And like I said, it has a lot of high power threats, but it is going to lend to that predictability downfall that we've seen with some other teams before. But yeah, what do you guys think?
I think the Sticky Web archetype. Sorry, go on, Emerald.
Oh yeah. The way I see it, this team is either going to set up sticky webs and all the hazards in the world with Mew, and then keep them up with Golden Go, and then sweep with 2 Moxie Sweepers, or it's not. Like, I don't see any other way this goes down. This is just like those teams that they had back in the day where it's like, I'm going to set up all the hazards, and I'm going to come in with my sweepers, and I'm going to try to sweep you. And it's either going to fail or it's going to succeed.
Mm-hmm. This is Hyper Offense, the team, for sure. And I mean, I like Hyper Offense. It's my favorite playstyle by far. And I don't think it necessarily pulls that off terribly, because there definitely are big threats. Like the Quaquaval in particular, I think, really scary one in draft, even without Terra. I'm always afraid of Quaquaval sweeping me. I've been swept by it multiple times. And I think the Salamence as well, you know, if it gets a free turn with that Dragon Dance, it's super scary. The Golden Go to remove the hazards is a big deal. Like Sticky Web is a really, really dangerous hazard. And not being able to get rid of it can be super annoying. But at the same time, I really feel like this team is going to be super crippled by just boot spam.
Yeah,
and that's true. And another thing about this.
Yeah, another thing about this team that I will say, which is kind of another criticism from another team, is that it feels like it doesn't really have the best of defensive backbones either. So again, if you find yourself on the back foot, that's kind of the drawback of all hyper offense teams like this, is if you find yourself on the back foot, you're kind of screwed.
Yeah, this team can sweep you, but you can also sweep it, you know?
Exactly. So having said that, I think I'm definitely leaning more toward the B tier for this team.
Me personally, I think, well, fun little behind the scenes. I actually helped Almond put a little bit of his team together. He did still make most of the choices himself, but I did make a few suggestions, mainly the Quaquaval and the Rotom Heat. He was actually thinking of originally going Salazzle instead of Rotom Heat, and I really feel like that would have been even more terrible for him, because yes, it does give an amazing speed tier, but at the same time, he would have had even less of a defensive backbone. I really feel like Rotom has to come almost every single week just to not immediately lose to any setup sweeper. You know, and I feel like the Mew is really what's going to hold this team together, because it can play so many roles. I really feel like the Mew is going to have to like just come in and assist the teammates the best it can. I feel like he was going to have to, if he can get the most value out of Mew, I don't think this team is D tier worthy at all, because Mew is just so incredible in draft because of that unpredictability. But it's also like, you know, like you said, the team is rather predictable. The Hisuian Quillfish and the Gurdurr, I mean, how often are they going to show up to battle? I think this team is definitely a kill or be killed situation, and with the boot spam, the lack of defensive core, I think it's easier to kill this team than be killed.
Fair enough.
What do you think, Emerald?
Emerald, what are you thinking?
Yeah, pretty much just all the same points. Me personally, I have it rated as a solid. You've got the offensive presence, but just the lack of a defensive backbone is really what kills it for me.
Which tier would you say?
Yeah, solid team.
Okay, so the B tier. Cap, what do you say?
I would say B tier 100%. I wouldn't put it any lower because, like I said, there are so many offensive threats, but I wouldn't put it any higher for the aforementioned reason. Right.
I personally do think C tier, but I can definitely see you guys' points. So I'm outvoted. We'll go for B tier. All right. On to the next one, which is the Machesney Park Slowpokes, coached by Apparator54, aka Adam. Now, I guess I'll take the lead on this one. First of all, Hisuian Samurott. I wanted that, but it's alright. I think I really like the Ursaluna Blood Moon.
You should have picked it up earlier than like round 7, man.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely. I should have gone back-to-back Cleave or Hisuian Samurott. That would have been funny. But yeah,
absolutely.
I think the Ursaluna Blood Moon is an insane threat. I think that thing literally just gets to click buttons and it gets the kill. It's even better than, I mean, it's officially an Uber now, right? I think that thing behind screens is going to be super deadly, because even if you like try to spend a turn brick breaking, to get rid of the screens, it's still going to live it easily, and it just blows you to bits with Blood Moon. I think the other mons like Sarah Ledge, Hisuian Samurott, Jirachi, these are all amazing screen abusers. Even the Flapple and the Alolan, even the Terra Captains, like they're not the best, but like I can see where Adam is going with this team. He definitely does. Like, I would say the mons individually, overall, are not the greatest, but there's definitely synergy, and I do like that about his. Team a lot. He's also not like completely defenseless defensively either, because the Jirachi can definitely go defensive. The Weezing obviously is an amazing defensive mon. And again, there's another 11. This is another team where there's 11 Pokemon and they're all usable. So again, I think honestly it's kind of funny. The only weak link I would say on the team is Braviary. I've used, me and Jack have used Braviary in the GBA. I don't like this mon, especially if it can't Terra. But other than that, I think this team is actually pretty decent, and you really have to be careful because this team can run you over, I think.
Yeah, I don't want to. I know Adam, he doesn't want us to kind of spoil his things, but one big thing that pushes this team up for me is the fact that for some reason no one else decided to run any weather. Like, Alola Ninetales is the only weather setter in the entire draft.
Yeah,
so they're not going to have a problem getting up their Veil. There's snow warning Veil.
No weather wars.
Send in my Ursaluna Blood Moon, and then boom, it's going to blow something up.
Yep. I think the only real criticism I have about this team is the speed tiers. Alola Ninetales being the fastest at base 109 honestly kind of sucks. But other than that, I mean, it does still have bulk, right?
Hey, you got webs. You have the webs, brother.
That is true. That is very true.
Yes. Yeah, so I got the positives I got for this team are I think it's really well balanced as far as typing. No glaring weaknesses there. I think it's a really deep roster, as you mentioned. There's 11 Pokemon, and they're all pretty much viable brings. I mean, maybe the Braviary and the Flapple, not so much, but still, they're all, you could see the possibility of these Pokemon coming. Another thing that we had mentioned, which I think people sleep on, is that Snow Core. So there's just you have the old school, like Gen 7 Alola Ninetales, Alolan Sandslash Snow Core, and obviously with Sandslash being a Terra Captain, that could be a huge problem for somebody.
Adam loves a Snow Core.
So honestly, I think yes, and so honestly, I think this team is really strong. It's really well put together. Ursaluna Blood Moon is obviously just an insane threat on every level. Jirachi and Samurott, Hisuian Samurott, I should say, are pretty insane threats too. My biggest criticism of this team, besides the speed tier thing, because I do agree with you on the speed tier thing, but webs can mitigate that. My other big criticism of this team is the fact that he, the whole time, was being like, "Oh, it's not such a good team. It's not such a motherfucker. This is a good team." So
he's trying to play it down. He's not wanting anybody to overanalyze it like we are. Exactly.
He's trying to. He's
broken mirrors over there.
Yeah, let your guard down, guys.
You know what? Yeah, because you know what? I'm not having it. So you know what? You're going in the S tier, you ass. That's what I'm saying.
I'm saying, bro, this is Pokemon Viola material. Yes, thank you.
Honestly, it's really good. I'm not sure if I quite agree with Pokemon Violet material, but if you guys agree on it, I'm outvoted.
Come on, there's a Jirachi. When there's a Jirachi, there's a way,
that
brother.
Is true.
It's gonna Iron Head clench you to death.
You know what? I'll join you guys. Apparator's going in the Pokemon Violet material.
I don't think. Yeah, I was gonna say I don't think having low speed tiers is enough of a reason not to put it in the Violet tier. So I think it definitely does belong there for all those other reasons.
All right, let's put it up there. On to the next team. We're slowly but surely nearing the end here. Next up is going to be the Grand Lake Garchomps, coached by Stefan. Thoughts on this one, guys?
All right, let me just find it here, actually, because I lost my place. GLG, what do we got? Okay, so, all right, so I actually, again, I have kind of mixed feelings about this team, to be honest with you. I do like it for a few reasons. One big reason is the defensive backbone. I think he has a really good defensive backbone on this team with stuff like Volcanion, Sylveon. Even the Rillaboom is pretty good. Ukadoogie is pretty bulky also.
Don't sleep on Drifblim.
So yeah, I like Drifblim as well. Yeah, so as a Terra Captain, shout out to the Leaf agents, right?
Yep. I hope he uses Drifblim better than I did. I think I horribly underused this mon.
Yeah. So, but no, I do like this team quite a bit. I like the fact that he's got Meloetta as a Terra Captain. I think that could be really unpredictable.
Yeah, Meloetta is an amazing Terra Captain in my opinion.
Yep. The one real criticism I have of this team is I feel like he has a lot of unchecked ground weaknesses on it. Obviously, so the Ugaduki, Lucario, Volcanion, Raichu, to name Hisuian Avalugg. So like half the team is weak to ground,
Hisuian
which is
Avalugg.
not great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is worth noting,
but
however,
other
that he
than
does have the Grassy Surge, which can mitigate that to an extent.
True,
Yeah, I'm gonna run
absolutely.
high horsepower.
Yep. Or for the
There you
Lando
go.
users, you can run Sandsteer Storm.
Yes. So, but no. So I do like this team a lot. I think it's got a lot of good things going for it with it. Like I said, the defensive core, and also it has Pokemon like Roaring Moon that can apply a lot of offensive pressure too. Although, I guess the offensive pressure is a little bit lacking. But it does have a really strong defensive backbone. Aside from the ground weaknesses, but yeah.
Emerald, thoughts?
Yeah, I agree with all the same things as Captain. I mean, just too many ground weaknesses for me. And I mean, the Avalugg, buddy, this and it's 4 times weak to like steel and fighting. And the fact that it can't Terra, like we saw Pokemaster made great use of Hisuian Avalugg versus me, but that was because you could Terra. This thing being the only way. Oh wait, no, Drifblim gets defog, right?
It does, yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so at least you have that.
The spreadsheet
But
also says that
just for
Volcano
me-
gets default, but I'm pretty sure it doesn't. Not in Scarlet and Violet anyway.
No, I don't think so.
Yeah, not Scarlet
I don't
Violet.
think it does.
But yeah, I mean they've got a lot of physical offensive Pokemon. They've got the Sylveon and the Meloetta and Drifblim can Alolan
Roaring
Raichu
Moon.
too. They've got some solid mons, but just in terms of defensive backbone, I mean they've got, to me it's just like mons that are offensive but also bulky, but they don't really have something that's gonna like come in and take a hit, you know what I mean, and like be able to recover it up, you know.
Yeah.
And there's no defensive pivots.
For me personally, I think the way this team is going to function is Roaring Moon is going to carry this squad, because Lucario can't Terra. It's still a good mon for sure, but there's, outside of that, like you guys mentioned, there's a big lack of setup sweepers. And because Roaring Moon is realistically the only thing that can just Dragon Dance up and win, and even then it can't Terra. You know, we saw in week 7 against Arcanine where I had a physical defensive Great Tusk and I just beat it. Like this mon is definitely, especially without Terra, Roaring Moon is a good mon, but it's not unstoppable. And I feel like if you deal with the Roaring Moon, it's going to be difficult for Stefan to, like, he's going to play a slow game. I do think his Terra Captain choices are excellent, but it's still that Hisuian Avalugg, buddy, you got to have that as a Terra Captain. It's going to be otherwise so easy to push over, I feel.
Yeah.
And
I mean, he does have the SD Rillaboom and the SD Lucario that can get out, you know, he could pull off a Grassy Glide or an E-Speed sweep at the end.
Yeah.
That's a potential way I could see.
I also really think Rillaboom should come almost every week, just because of how much it mitigates the team's
have
ground
to.
weakness.
You have to.
Definitely.
So, what are you guys thinking ranking-wise?
I would probably go with a solid B. I couldn't see it putting it really any higher than that, but at the same time, it's a good team.
Yeah, I couldn't see it
but I
any
think it's a
lower
solid
either.
team. Yeah, exactly.
All right.
For me too.
B it is. Solid team. Alright, we're into the final 2 right now. Next up is going to be the Piercing Pawniards, coached by the best, not really. So first of all, I respect the Regidrago coming back, even though it can't Terra this season. He still picked it up. I think that's just commitment right there. I respect it. He's got a lot of returning ones, just like the captain. He's got a lot of returning favorites. He's got the Hisuian Zora art. He's got the Florges. I think he had Delphox last season as well.
Yeah, he had Paldean Tauros Aqua too, right?
Right, yeah. So there's a lot of returning mons.
I don't know how much he brought it, but yeah.
It's a solid mon in my opinion. So I think this is a team, another one of those teams where I do think the overall value of most mons, even like Appleton, Ditto, and Skuntank, is good. I don't really see the point of Skuntank. I mean, it's a decent defensive wall, but he's already got a grounded poison type in Sneasler, so I'm not really sure how much that's going to be coming. I do also think Regidrago without Terra can definitely be like a bit of dead weight. Like against Cap, for example, how is that thing going to get past Wigglytuff of all things, you know? So I think you actually faced him in season 1 as well.
Does anything get past Wigglytuff?
True. But I think, if I remember correctly, you actually faced the best in season 1 as well, and that's when the Regidrago could Terra, and it still had trouble with Wigglytuff. So I can only just imagine now how hard it gets walled by that thing or just any fairy type in particular. Now this team is definitely not without its good sides. It definitely does have power. You know, the Hisuian Zoroark, the Sneasler, the Delphox, they are absolute powerhouses. The Sneasler in particular, even without Terra, is still an absolute demon. Super difficult to prepare for. It can go, I was about to say Specs, that would have been wrong. Band, Scarf, Unburden, you know, it's very difficult. And the Terra Captains, I think, are also pretty decent. You know, you've got the Florges, which is an amazing wall. The special dude. This thing is immovable on the special side. It's like Blissey 2.0. The Delphox is an amazing Terra Captain.
Almost did me in.
Yep. The Delphox, I think, is also really good. And then the Appleton, I mean, we've seen this thing function in the GBA, the infamous Bubby, shout out to him. I think this mon as a Terra Captain is actually kind of underrated. I mean, with the thick fat and stuff as well, it's like Grass Dragon. I hate to say, but this typing is not horrible with that thick fat ability defensively, and if it can change it with Terra as well, I could see this team being tough to break, honestly, with the Fortress, the Florges, and the Tauros that can go defensive as well, and the Appleton, the Gliscor is there as well. Like, this team, it does have that well established balance of offense and defense, and I really like that about it. Terra Captains are also good, like I said.
Right, and they've also got the Ditto, which for me didn't particularly do too much, mainly was a deterrent, but we've seen already over the course of this analysis that there's been a lot of hyper-offensive teams with a lot of setup mons.
Yep.
I mean, you guys both have Shell Smashers, and they've got a Ditto there that's basically saying, hey, if you want to do that, well, I'm here, and I'm ready to go.
I'm not facing the best, so I could safely say this, but if I was, I would not be using Shell Smash or Terra. No, sir.
Exactly, it's a nice deterrent to have.
Cap, what do you think of the team?
Yes, I actually really like this team a lot, to be honest with you. I like how balanced it is. So it has a good balance of typing. So again, no really glaring weaknesses to the team. It's really well put together, I think. The best nut, really, I think, is probably the most underrated coach from Season 1 that we had.
Yes, the fact that this guy was last in the standings is shocking.
Exactly. This guy is I think he's really good at building teams and really good at playing. I think he just, even though he did have, I think, the worst record in the league last season,
yeah, he did.
I think everybody kind of said it didn't feel like he deserved it because, all of his losses were pretty damn close.
Mm-hmm. He put up a really good fight against some of the best coaches.
Yeah, and my Week 9 game with him that I played last season was very easily could have lost that game, and I know Emerald had the same thing when he played him earlier in the season. Very easily could have lost the game to him. So, but aside from that, I will say I do like this team. This is a very deep roster as well, so I like that. I mean, stuff like the Skunk Tank, yeah, just because you have the Sneasler, probably not going to come too much. The Appleton, I don't know. Don't think that mon's that great in my opinion. As a Terra Captain, that could put it up a little bit.
Oh no, that could be pretty bulky with Terra Fairy Appleton. I mean, that's pretty tough.
Maybe I'm just underestimating it, but no, I think he does have a really deep roster, which is what I like. I do think the Terra Captains are very well placed, as we said. The only real criticism I have of this team is I don't really see a lot of high power threats on this team. So, you have the Sneasler, you have the Hisuian Zoroark if it gets a couple nasty plots up.
Or if it's just specs.
Other than that, or that. But I really honestly don't see a lot of high power threats on this team. I do see it as more of a balanced team, so that's really the negative for me. But I think it's a really solid team overall, honestly. His
best breaker, of course, is the Regidrago. That thing hits insanely hard with Dragon Energy and other Dragon Stab, but of course that is stifled by Fairy Wall, so it's it can definitely fall short sometimes. I think this team is very good though. What do you guys think ranking wise?
I'm probably, to be honest with you. Yeah, you took the words right out of my mouth. I was going to say, it does seem like an A-tier team to me, quite honestly.
Absolutely agree. I'm going to put it right up there. And then for the last team for the power rankings, we're nearly there, is the Piedmont Triad Kickers, coached by Brandon P. So I'll start with this one. So I think when I saw Brandon establishing his team, I was getting scared because this guy drafted such big threats early on. Like the Urshifu Rapid Strike, in my opinion, there's still the superior Urshifu form. The Cinderace, the Clodsire, the Rotomo, the Noivern, all of these are amazing mons. And obviously he has another thing I really like about Brandon's team is this guy's Terra Captains are sickeningly good. The Frostmoth, big sleeper pick in my opinion, is an amazing Terra mon that can easily just win. I don't know if you guys have seen GBA Week 9 for me and Jack, but that mon literally 6-0'd. Bisharp as a Terra captain, again, I really struggled using King Gambit last season because it couldn't Terra, and Bisharp is definitely worse than King Gambit in a lot of ways, but it definitely also has advantages, mainly on the bulk and speed side of things. And the fact that it can Terra now means it definitely is like a threat that can definitely bring big games back. The Ursaring, again, it's a little bit, Ursaluna Jr., but it still can put in a lot of work. The only thing about this team I really have complaints about is the Masquerade and the Murkrow are likely... I mean, Sticky Webs is solid, right? But it's not like... first of all, he doesn't have a Rapid Spinner. His only hazard removal is Defog and Court Change. So, and those both get rid of webs, right? As a matter of fact, Court Change puts it back on his side.
Yeah.
So I don't expect Masquerade to be coming all that often. But yeah, I think outside of those two months, I think the team is still, despite those, I think the team is still very versatile. And again, I think the Terra captains really push this team. I don't want to spoil my judgment, but I think this is definitely an A or S tier team.
Yeah, I would agree with most of that stuff. The notes I have about this team are I think it is capable of applying an insane amount of offensive pressure. So I really like that about, obviously, the Rapid Strike Urshifu, the Cinderace, the Noivern even. Terra Frostmoth is obviously great, which kind of feeds into the Terra Captains. I think it's obviously the Terra Captains are very well placed. Like you said, I agree with you. The Frostmoth and the Bisharp specifically. He does have some Pokemon like the Murkrow, Masquerain, and even the Ursaring, which is like, yeah, I mean, how often are those going to come, quite honestly? But, with Terra Ursaring, that might come, Terra Eviolite Ursaring might come more than we think.
I think it's super bulky.
The one... Yeah, so the one little criticism I do have about this team is that I definitely see it as more of an offensive team than a defensive team, although he does have some good defensive options like the Clodsire and the Rotom-Mow. But outside of that, he doesn't really have much of a defensive backbone, so I think this is going to be one of those teams, again, where if you find yourself on the back foot, it's going to be kind of hard. Like, if you've got coverage for the Clodsire, that's really seems to be, like, the only thing that's going to be holding him back from getting swept if he gets on the back foot in a game. So I see the Clodsire coming pretty much every week, just because without that, he doesn't have much of a defensive backbone going on here.
I agree.
But other than that, I do think it's a really good team. I think offensive pressure this team can apply is amazing. So
another big criticism I think I have about this team real quick is Rotom-Mow is realistically the only real physical wall, I think. Like, because Clodsire and Frostmoth are good, especially defensive walls, right? And the Bisharp, I guess, can realistically go both. But the only one that's like dedicated physical defense is the Rotom-Mow. And that's like, the Rotom forms are versatile, right? And I think Rotom-Mow is an amazing addition to his team. But it's not... I kind of noticed it with my team last season as well. I mean, I had the Great Tusk, so it was a little bit easier still, but relying on a Rotom appliance to cover one entire side of the spectrum is tough, and I really feel like that's what Brandon's going for here.
Exactly. Yeah, absolutely. It is tough when you lean too heavily on Rotom for your defensive backbone. That is a little bit of a problem.
Especially Rotom-Mow, which has arguably the worst defensive typing out of all of them. What do you think, Emerald?
Exactly. Yeah, I was going to say, I'm probably only the second worst to the Refrigerator, the ice one. But you need to switch out some of these offensive bonds, maybe maybe one more defensive Pokemon. Like, I love Terra and Bisharp with a Violite, and then Ursaring, but like just some of these mons that you're gonna have to run boots on Frostmoth, you know what I mean? And it's just like some of these mons that are bulky are also your offensive Pokemon. You need something that's dedicated to just being like a defensive pivot, like Clodsire. And right now, Clodsire is pretty much their only one.
Yeah. I think this team is definitely A tier material, but not quite S. What do you think?
I don't think we've even mentioned the Urshifu Rapid Strike. I mean, you're talking about an uber Pokemon right there. I mean, the Surging Strikes, you're able to get those crits off, ignore screens, ignore Intimidate drops. Very solid Pokemon. But
this is definitely what made me figure this team the most, for sure.
It's just not as fast, yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with your assessment. I think A would be a fair place to put this team, just because it's, like you said, it's capable of applying a lot of offensive pressure, but the defensive backbone just isn't really there.
All right, so now we have the official ranking. Do we still want to order the tiers, or should we just leave it there?
Well, I can't see what you're looking at, and I haven't been paying attention, or I haven't been noting them, I should say.
That's true, yeah.
So can we list them all off right now and see where we stand?
I think we could. The top 4 teams are me, you, Emerald, and Adam. Big Fred is HYM, Jack, Beardo, Arcaniner, The Best, and Brandon. Solid team is Chris, Icy Dude, Almond, and Stefan. Decent team is Raymond, and the only team in Coach will carry is Lionel.
I'm pretty happy with that, honestly. I don't know that I would make any changes to that ranking system. I think it's seems pretty fair and solid to me.
Honestly, if we're going to sit here and rank these teams, I would have to share my screen and we're going to be here all day, so I think it's fine if we just leave it here. But I think I like this ranking. I think it's quite accurate. Again, it might be a little bit biased because we put ourselves in top tier. But
I still feel bad about that. Blame us in the comments. It's good for engagement if you disagree with our rankings.
Yeah, I'll definitely let us know in the comments. Do you agree or disagree with this ranking? All right.
You know what? All in all, I think we've been pretty fair and objective with all this. I mean, it just so happens that we're at the top. You know, it happens.
It happens.
But
yeah.
all in all, I do think we are. Actually, a good way to look at this is we're not at the top because we put ourselves there. We're doing the video because we were at the top.
See, I like that way of thinking. Alright, we're going to round it off there. Thank you so much, B-Nard and emeraldminer, for joining me. That is going to be the power rankings, guys, for BHTL Season 2. Again, this is in no way supposed to be us saying, oh, we think Raymond or Lionel can't win the league, or oh, if I, B-Nard, emeraldminer, or Adam doesn't win the league, then we all played like shit. You know, it's definitely not like that. This is just a raw estimation of how good we think the teams are, and we also did not really take player skill into account at all. So we could definitely see some. We're definitely down to see some surprises. But again, that's going to be the one. Thank you so much, fine gentlemen, for joining me today, and that is of the official power rankings for BHDL Season 2. Thank you guys so much for watching, and see you next time. Peace.